Well, in my head, if you're Marvin Gaye, you can sing You Turn Me On. Right. If you're some little white nerdy guy from Glasgow with freckles gone, You Turn Me On. It's creepy. But not according to Jimmy.
You were a tad bit nerdy, Jim.
A bit nerdy, yeah.
But that's why Chrissy Hines seems like when you guys got together, I remember thinking, wow, she's like the leather rock chick, and this guy, that's kind of wild.
Bit off a bit more than I could chew.
Please welcome of Simple Minds, Mr. Jim Kerr.
Yeah.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much. A real pleasure to be here.
And by the way, Jim Kerr, I believe, is actually how you pronounce your last name, correct?
You got it right. In Glasgow, they would say that.
In Glasgow.
Here, they say more kind of Kerr, which is nice. But we're a bit hard on the E, Kerr.
It reminds you where you are, I guess, when you hear your name pronounced a certain way.
Well, my mother's favorite actress was Deborah Kerr.
That's a good choice.
So, nice compliment.
There you go.
I'm going to start by throwing a lot of love your way. Your performance, and I'll get right to the song that broke the band in the United States, Don't You Forget About Me. Your performance of that particular song means so much to me. 1986, around that range, was when I was a senior in high school. The Breakfast Club, the film had come out, and it just spoke directly to a person like me. The song was such a huge part of the emotional impact of that film, and it has now become my almost... It's tangible, the emotion that I feel when I hear the song. It takes me back to that time in my life that was so important in my own personal development. I'm actually getting a little choked up here when I'm talking. And you were the passion in your voice. Now, I'm probably going to overuse the word passion as we talk to you, Jim, because that's how I always categorize your vocal style. Your singing, very, very passionate. And at that time, it rose above a lot of the other things that were on the radio at the time. And so, number one, I want to thank you. And I know that song wasn't written by you or your bandmates, but I think what you did with it just went above and beyond.
It's the performance.
And surpassed what that song really was.
Well, it's an honor to have any song that means so much to people, but particularly with that song, we are aware in the States, actually elsewhere, that song and the movie meant so much, not only to that generation, but amazingly subsequent generations as well seem to have. It still seems those John Hughes movies, he really hit a nerve. And I know what you mean in the sense that, I'm a music fan as well, and it's an amazing thing with music. Even more than film, I think, and photographs, you hear certain songs and it takes you back to a place. It takes you to the very emotion.
Most definitely.
And there are certain songs that do that for me. For me, it was always radio in my mother's house. There's certain songs I hear, I can actually feel we called it Formica table, this cheap, this cheap breakfast table, because, the radio was there. We listened to radio breakfast, as everyone does here. Yeah. And there's certain songs I can actually feel, I'm right at the table. And I get a little teary about that as well.
Oh, my God. It's so true.
It's so powerful. And you, and I'm curious, here I am, a chance to meet you and say thank you in person and so forth. And you've had a tremendously successful career. Have you ever had a chance to speak to someone a la David Bowie and say, that song meant so much to me? And do you feel a little odd saying that? Because I know you've heard it so many times, and I don't know if it gets old to you or not, and I feel a little embarrassed that I'm saying all this to you.
Well, you bet. I mean, whenever I'm not cool when I meet people that have meant a lot to me, whether it's sports stars or rock stars or whatever, or movie. I just go up and say, "You're amazing," and, But some of them kind of don't want to talk about it or something. Have you ever found that? Where you
get that,
and someone's just kind of went, "Yeah, whatever."
Well, and it's confusing
to it.
It is confusing when that happens.
Well, we've talked about this, Jimmy. It's sort of a liability when you meet people who've meant a lot to you. And then we use the phrase, they were them. They were exactly who you wanted them to be. Yeah. And it's like the ultimate when you get the person you hope they would be. Not everyone can be that, or some people, sort of have sort of a jaded view, or they'll kind of frown upon what got them to the dance.
Or they're self-conscious or something.
Right, and for whatever reason, and you'd almost rather keep the illusion than the actual reality. But when they do sync up and you get both, it's fantastic.
Well, I can talk about both for a minute, because as some of you might know, I was married to Chrissy Hine.
Yes, yeah.
Chrissy's the greatest. I mean, she's just the greatest.
Well, I'll Stand By You that's my wife. That's our wedding song. Yeah.
You guys now share a grandchild together.
We do indeed.
Yeah. Congratulations.
And yet Chrissy, she would be the first to say, when anyone goes up to her in the street and goes, "Wow, Chrissy, she kind of goes right in her shell, and she kind of doesn't know what to say, and it comes across as being cold." Mm-hmm. And then she will regret that for the rest of the week. Genuinely, she'll say, "Oh, I met that person," and they must think, well, I won't tell you what she says, but she doesn't mean it like, she just gets kind of, whereas Charlie Burchill, my songwriting partner and guitar player in Simple Minds, we were beyond fortunate last week in New York because we had a night off, and I'm sure you're aware Springsteen was playing on Broadway, and
so cool.
Just to get tickets to see the show was enough to be 20 yards from him, where he's standing with an acoustic playing Born to Run, and the spit was almost touching us. In fact, we were running towards it. And then afterwards, we didn't know this. Afterwards, as we were about to leave, someone came out and said, John Landau, Bruce's manager, would let you go back. And I'm sure no one will be surprised to hear me say that, Bruce was just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he just wanted to talk about music, and he wanted to talk about a book that he'd written, of which the show is based on, of which we've all read. And it was great to have someone as comfortable.
You love that. Did he relay any particular level of was he citing some of your work, or because he clearly, you?
Well, he's so generous. We had played in New Jersey the night before.
Okay.
I think John had told him that, and we played, so we're in his hood, and he had just spent time on stage saying how he had a love-hate with New Jersey, because all he wanted to do was get out of there, hence Born to Run and all that. But of course he's still there, but he knew we'd played, and he was asking about the band and all that stuff. We have a few friends in common. Steve Van Zandt, we did a lot of things with Steve back in the day.
And the Sun City,
the Sun City thing, and also Jimmy Iovine, who produced Born to Run. He just produced a track that you played there, Alive and Kicking, and so we'd met Bruce before as well. So
I think, and it's the truth, that the people who, I love when film directors come in here and they're fans of other directors, because you clearly you just at a core have a passion for music.
That's right.
So you are a fan of other musicians. Yeah. And I think that informs your ability to be a great musician.
I would think so. I think I think if you're in love with something, it must be. Listen, if you've got a job that you love, no matter what that job is, you've won the lotto, because we know what it's like if you don't like your job.
Yes.
So if you're passionate about it, I mean, even today we're going to go along to the theatre 4:30 this afternoon. We're going to work on other stuff, songs that we want to bring into the set as the tour progresses.
That's great.
We're always chopping and changing. I'm excited about that, and it's only a sound check.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about, Jim, yours and Simple Minds' history in Philadelphia. You played Live Aid here. From what I understand, you were the first band that was approached to play the Philadelphia show.
Well, certainly I remember getting the call from Geldof at the time, and it was amazing. It was a great honour to be asked, and of course, although obviously we're from the other side of the pond, at the time the song that you mentioned, Don't You Forget About Me, was really climbing high in the Billboard charts, and Bob said, you got to do it in Philadelphia. We were only too happy. We were en route anyway to come here and record. But I don't think any of us were aware that all these years later that, in terms of rock and roll anyway, it's still the historical event, is our generation's Woodstock. Joan Baez, I think, alluded to that when she opened. That was her. But when you see even now, when I see the numbers that were there in the stadium's no longer
here.
Yeah.
Was that day fairly chaotic?
in the way you would expect. I mean, I was talking outside. I mean, everyone was there. You know, I mean, it was a whole. The great thing was, I brought across my dad.
Oh wow!
He'd never been in the States before. And we sort of, he was wearing a bright yellow Scotland T-shirt. So I thought, how can you lose him? He's wearing a bright yellow. They said, "Mimi, how can you lose him? 120,000 people out there." But I saw him because he was wearing this.
The bright yellow Scotland T-shirt.
Yeah, and he said to me, come here, I want to introduce you to this guy. I want to introduce you. Who's here? Now you think, you know, Madonna was there and Tina Turner and Mick Jagger and all that. And we went round. And there was this guy sitting on his amplifier, just strumming away.
Yeah.
Total dignity. Bo Diddley.
Ah, Bo Diddley.
And my dad said to me, Bo Diddley, if it wasn't for him, there would be no live.
Legendary,
you know, there would be no rock and roll. If it wasn't for these guys. And of course, he was right. Yeah. So, memories like that come to the forefront.
You mentioned Jimmy Iovine, and I saw the special on HBO about him, the Defiant Ones, and he talked about producing Born to Run and how frustrating it was because Bruce was such a perfectionist when it came to putting that record. And eventually somebody had to tell Jimmy, it's not your record, Jimmy, it's Bruce's. Let Bruce do what he needs to do. What was it like for you guys working with him?
I mean, we've been so lucky. We worked with Jimmy, Bob Clearmountain, Trevor Horn, Steve Lillywhite, all these people. But Jimmy just had this way. It's funny because I can tell the jury was out. Some of the people around us didn't quite get Jimmy.
Really?
Because Jimmy was more a kind of ringmaster. He couldn't go in and tell you technically what was wrong or what was right. It was all feel. And he had a great kind of meter on him with that. That feels great. That's where you should be. But he made you feel great. And if you felt great, then you're going to perform. He gave you confidence. And I, in some ways, we've never met anyone like Jimmy in that sense. He would be, you know how in sports you get a coach, I say this, that make journeymen believe they're much better than they are.
Right.
Jimmy did that to us.
It would seem like some producers are more musicians and some guys are more directors. And when it comes to instructing a band, and he seems like more the director kind.
I'll tell you a funny story about it, and this is the way he is too, because Alive and Kicking, we'd put together the demo. See, we were all a bit weirded out with the success of Don't You Forget About Me, because it become this kind of colossal thing, the movie and MTV, and everyone was all over it.
It was just a confluence of things going on. Yeah.
And Jimmy was like, you know, what are you going to do to follow it up? It's a monster. What are you going to do? You know? And we were like, I don't know. Relax. We'll come up with something. And so we came up with this, basically the structure for Alive and Kicking. He's like, that's great. You know, like, get it down. That's going to be amazing. And we all felt that. But I had done a guide vocal, kind of sketch lyrics.
Yeah.
That I meant to come back and finish off. And the first line, and it's, you know, you turn me on. So I got to do it for real. And I changed the line to something else. And he goes, hang on a minute. Where's you turn me on? I said, you can't sing you turn me on. That's terrible. That's garbage. You turn me on. I won't be able to go home to Glasgow if I sing that. People will just rip the out of me. And he went, you're going to change that? And I said, yeah. And he went, my wife loves it. All Vicky's friends love it. Everyone loves it. You can't change it. I said, I'm changing it. And he starts taking out his car keys and his house. He says, here, take them, because I'm going to lose my house. Here, you're going to cost me a fortune. You're going to cost me a fortune. You're going to cost. And he was kind of half serious.
Yeah.
So it stayed.
Hey, listen.
And it kind of works.
It works. It works.
It works as long as I don't think about it.
But it's funny because you as the artist are going to be hypercritical, and it's something that we have to think about, even on our level of just doing what we do.
Yeah.
You know, like program directors or whatever, listen with different ears.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing, I think, and probably what distinguishes a good producer who is able to produce hits, listens as the consumer hears it.
Yeah. Well, in my head, if you're Marvin Gaye, you can sing You Turn Me On. Right. If you're some little white nerdy guy from Glasgow with freckles gone, You Turn Me On. It's creepy. sleepy, but not according to
You
Jimmy.
were a tad bit nerdy, Jim.
A bit nerdy, yeah.
But
That's why Chrissy Hines seems like when you guys got together, I remember thinking, wow, she's like the leather rock chick, and this guy, that's kind of wild.
Bit off a bit more than I could chew. But you got to give me kudos for
Thumbs up
for daring to dance.
yes, absolutely. Jim, it's an honor to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, all of you.
Our pleasure.
Jim Kerr, guys, on the Preston and Steve Show.